People in Iran, they know when they're going in the street, maybe they will not come back alive.
You're one of the leaders of the protests in the UK against the Islamic Republic regime.
They sat in the street and saying, okay, shot me.
What's going on in Iran?
We have support from President Trump with word that make the regime themselves scared.
We are impressed and moved by the bravery of the people in Iran.
The Iranians, every day, every night, every morning, they are hopeless. In Iran, it's not going to happen. Justice with the Islamic Republic.
More and more people today realize that there is that limitation to the news that they're watching in the mainstream media. We have to learn to be our own journalists.
I get death threat here in UK, Germany as well, which is I escaped from.
The regime closes down the internet, thank God for Elon Musk.
Islamic Republic trying hard, washing the children's brains in school. Every day you have to chant death to UK, death to US, death to Israel. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm Jonathan Sacerdoti. Just before we carry on, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel because that way you'll help the channel to grow. And if you enjoy these conversations as much as I enjoy having them, you'll get to hear about them as soon as I publish them. Niyak Ghorbani, my friend, welcome back. This time in the flesh, we get to discuss what's going on in Iran. You're one of the leaders of the protests in the UK here, and I've known you for now a few years as a regular protester against the anti-Israel marches. But now people are out on the streets in the UK, as they are across Iran, protesting against the Islamic Republic regime. So firstly, I want to ask you how it feels to see this support that you're getting here in the UK for this very important cause.
First of all, thank you so much for having me in person after, I think, 6 times we interview online.
Yeah.
And now in person. This situation right now we have, it's a lots of pressure on lots of Iranian here, not just me as a organize some event, but you know, you have your family in Iran, you have your friend in Iran, you worry about them. They actually, you see your actually social media, they saying we want to fight against the Islamic Republic. You see this atmosphere from Iran, and then you feel you have to do something. When you actually step on activism and do something for Iranian, and see lots of Jewish people, lots of British people come and stand with you and saying, okay, we are with you, we're standing with you. It's something really interesting. You feel people here are like your family, part of your family. They care about what you care, and they want to stand with you and fight with you. That's really amazing feeling. I love it.
I think I can speak for myself and many people I know. We are impressed and moved by the bravery of the people in Iran who are standing up against the tyranny there, against the regime that they've suffered under for so long. And of course, our Iranian friends here in the UK are people like yourself who have escaped that. Yeah. And I've always been impressed with your bravery. You know, we laugh about it, but you've been arrested now 13 times here in the UK, arrested for the most ridiculous things, usually for your sign, Hamas are terrorists. This apparently gets you arrested in the UK, and various other things. I think you're a frequent flyer now with the police. You're probably getting frequent flyer miles. Yeah. But in all seriousness, the bravery that you and other Iranians show here in protesting on behalf of Israel against the anti-Israel mobs and things like that, I think comes directly from your knowledge and experience of what happened in Iran.
Exactly.
So it's very good to see that this is a two-way street and that the people who you've been supporting here are out in force to support the people of Iran in their fight. But protesting is protesting. It's important and effective. But tell us about what's happening back in Iran and how the protests and uprising there against the regime this time could be, hopefully will be, any different from previous times?
Yeah, always I had this word, you are brave. Everyone telling me, since I became a person who, front of line, and everyone telling me, you are so brave, how are you going front of, lots of haters, and standing without with your sign, without actually fear. How is possible? And I'm always mention that you have to see Iranians, you have to actually watch how brave they are. I'm going stand front of the protesters, front of police actually, which is the police in UK. They don't arm, they don't have, they don't shot you. I believed when they have gun, they can shot me in the second or third time. But in Iran, it's really different. People in Iran, they knew when they're going to in the street, maybe they will not come back alive at home. Maybe their dead body, even their dead body, get hostage by the Islamic Republic. In this actually information, with this information we have right now, and this is actually something I actually made, and I always saying the Iranian are brave, but right now you witness with your own eye. They sat in the street, front of the machine gun, front of the police which is armed. They shot. They sat in the street and saying, "Okay, shot me." This is something really in different liga. We say the Iranian play in different liga. And yeah, this time I think we have lots of uprising in past. We did a lot of actually uprising. We fight against Islamic Republic a lot, but this time at least we have support. We have support from just President Trump with word. His word can actually help Iranians to show their courage, show their bravery.
Well, I must say, I absolutely understand what you're saying about that, but one of the truest signs of the brave that I've encountered doing my job is that they're always humble and say, this isn't brave, look what these other people have to face. So while I completely understand you, please take it from me, you are a brave man and a principled one. But back to Donald Trump, absolutely right. Thank God for Donald Trump's robust attitude in some of these world affairs. And I think a lot of people who maybe didn't like Trump originally have come round to appreciating some of his ways and words and actions. Is still, very polarizing character. But explain to me why the Trump reaction so far is better in the eyes of the Iranians who want to overthrow the regime, the vast majority, than, say, the actions of Barack Obama in the past. I remember Barack Obama effectively did the direct opposite when there were uprisings, and that helped the regime to squash them.
2009, I, myself, my brother, all my friends, we was young, 2009, we were to street, we fighting against Islamic Republic. Actually, we didn't, to be honest, we didn't have any political view at that moment. As a young person, want to go to street and being part of something. We didn't know it's uprising. We didn't know this is going to be, changing the regime. But we actually fight against Islamic Republic. We want to actually throw them away. That's why, every night when we're going to the street, every night after that, we gathering in the park, sitting together and talking about, the politics, and talking about the uprising, how we have to, fight against the, the police and stuff like that. we was young, and we actually always are, saying the leaders, Western leaders, what they saying about my knowledge actually coming from at that night and at that actually uprising. And I remember really, and I never forget that. Iranians will never forget that time. Barack Obama came and said, we are not supporting regime change in Iran. I remember when I'm talking to my friends, I said, listen, Barack Obama said, I'm not supporting the regime change. What's going to be happen? He said to me, he was older than me, he said to me, the Western country bring Khomeini to the power. When Western country doesn't want, will never happen. The Western country should show their support. When they don't want, even the Islamic Republic kill all of us, not going to be happen, the regime change. That's why the support, with words from President Trump, it's really important to us, and we appreciated that. And that make the regime themselves scared. They feel, okay, some politician or Western leader support the Iranians uprising, and they support this actually movement. That's why they have to be really careful. They have to be, polite, but with the terrorists never being polite with the protester in Iran.
So I know that here in the UK as well, the support has been a bit different from our politicians.
Yeah.
In a sense, disappointing in some respects, but the most important, as you say, is the US and the very clear position of Donald Trump. There has been, however, an extraordinary level of support from British people, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw the rally you had outside Downing Street, and as you looked at the crowd from the camera shots above, like it was vast. It was a really, really big number. And when you think, a lot of people have been scathing, saying, well, there were all these massive street protests about the Gaza Strip and where are they for Iran? But in actual fact, I get their point, but in actual fact, there was a huge response for Iran.
Actually, you have to remember that. We never asked them to come and support us.
No.
We don't need their support. They actually clearly show that they support the Islamic Republic. We don't need them. But yeah, we can't keep asking, where are you? But yeah.
No, those who went on the anti-Israel marches, you mean? Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was the reason people were making the comparison. They were saying, well, all these people out on the streets so-called for Gaza and for Palestinians actually probably are supportive of the Islamic Republic against the Iranian people. But back to the enormous number who did turn up last Sunday, I also recognize that these regular Palestine protests are very tightly organized, very highly funded. They have the backing of trade unions, the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. They bus people in from around the country. Week in, week out, it's a highly orchestrated event. In order to give this image, this projection of power and numbers. And what you did as an organizer and as an activist and a protester yourself was kind of the opposite. This was grassroots, ground up, right?
Yeah.
Those people turned up with minimal backing, support, money.
Exactly. If I explain how many people was behind this event, you will shock. We was 3 Iranians, me, Lily, and Dr. Tangsiri, and the Stop the Hate group, which is the organizer of the Israeli supporters. Itai, my good friend, he's like my brother, really. Itai, Max, Yochi, they are standing with us like Iranians. They knew everything from Iran. They knew what's happening in Iran, exactly like us. After October 7, the Iranians try to knowledging the Western people and Western politicians what's going on in Gaza and what's going on in Israel, what's happening on October 7th. Exact thing, same thing happened right now with the Israelis. You know, we see support from the British and Jews here in UK. They acting like Iranian, which is, I love it, and I'm really proud of it.
And so you should be. And in a way, I think it's a positive sign for Britain, because it shows that, you know, many ordinary British people not only get it and have a degree of empathy and principle over Iran and what the Iranian people have suffered for so long, but also it gives hope perhaps for us in this country.
Exactly. This is actually the beginning of the fight, which is the Islamist or front line. The Iranians right now fighting against Islamist terrorists which are in power. But the Islamists here in UK are different. They are still trying to get power. When they get power, it's going to be the second Islamic Republic here. That's why this fight teach lots of British people here how you have to actually act, how you have to fight against Islamists and love your country. This is really matter. If you love your country, you will care about, you know, what's going on around the world, because it's affect you. Islamic Republic right now, a lot of agents they have here in UK, they threaten you. They threaten British public. They threaten actually us, but British public as well. They converting lots of young actually British guy and ladies. Why? Because they want to achieve their ideology here in UK. That's why the fight, the Iranian fight, it's British fight as well.
And I think that's why I've always heard you say the Iranian experience is instructional for us in the UK and in the West more widely, because, you know, the Islamic Revolution doesn't start and end in one day. There is a slow build up, and you know, I spoke recently with the Israeli professor Mordechai Kedar, who said exactly this, that, you know, the immigration jihad, as he called it, sees numbers grow in Western countries, which of course sees a percentage of a Muslim immigration population which is Islamist, and it sees that spread, and it is part of a process that many British people, I think, have been blind to, or they don't want to admit that something could be happening.
They don't want to.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, it's that thing of, you know, how do you wake them up? But it's actually impossible to wake up someone who's only pretending to sleep. And so I think that
or better way with saying they can't believe. Right. Like Iranian 1979.
Couldn't believe either.
They don't believe that's going to be happen. Yeah. They never, if you're talking with the old people actually in that time, they saying, we never believe the Islam is going to be, the mullah is going to be come to power. We never believe that. They saying, yeah, we get lots of, you know, nice stuff from the leftists. They are telling us you have to have a freedom. You have to, you know, the Sabah killing us and stuff like that. We heard these things, but we didn't in same time, in same way, we didn't believe the mullah is going to be take a power and running the country. That's why, yeah, this is the problem of the British actually public as well. They don't believe till that's happened, and then look what's going on in Iran. You have to fight 47 years.
And do you really think that's what's happening here in the UK? You think it's as bad, this is the end destination for Britain, is what you experienced in Iran?
Anywhere the Islam want to actually grow, wants to express their ideology. They want to get the power. Why they coming here? This is actually some order from Quran. Actually, they saying Quran said, went to the kafir actually land, took their land, and, you know, converted everyone to the Islam, because the Islam is the best actually religion in the world. Yeah, it's going to be end of Islamic Republic when they don't listening to, for example, us, and don't actually avoiding our experience. Yeah, it's going to be happen here.
It's one of these things where you are one of those voices who keeps giving these warnings, and it's not arbitrary, it's not exaggerated. You've been there and you've seen it, and you've lived.
People sometimes telling me, oh, why everything happened in, for example, in UK, you saying it's same in Iran. I said, okay, you have to read our history. Everything happened that's happened before in Iran. We didn't learn. That's happened to us. You have to open your eyes.
And it's sad when people can't learn from each other's experience. It's not. If we have available to us warnings from people who really see a parallel, who really see echoes, who see a repetition, you escape from there and you came eventually here, and you feel the same thing happening around you. I think it's foolish when people don't listen, when they instead dismiss it. They tell you, no, you're exaggerating, you're wrong, you're an extremist.
Yeah, that's actually make me really, really sad. They saying you're Islamophobe, you are extreme. I said, listen, first of all, I'm ex-Muslim. I born in Muslim family. And in Iran, when the Islam went to Iran, everyone actually named Muslim. We are not Muslim. As you know, there are lots of Arab countries around us, they saying Iranian are not Muslim, which is true. We are not Muslim. We pretend to be Muslim to save our life 1,400 years ago, when the Muhammad actually went to Iran and tried to actually pushing us to Islam. Yeah, we are not Muslim, but in same time, in same actually way, we pretend as a Muslim, we knew lots of things about Islam, and we suffer from Islam. Right now, in street, when you see people, they ban mosque. I'm not saying, okay, let's do a ban mosque here in UK. No, I'm not saying that. But you have to think what they done to the Iranians they make decision to ban the mosque. The armies, police, actually, they going and hiding in mosque. You know why? Because they think Iranians gonna be respect mosque and don't attacking mosque, and they going and hiding there to actually attacking Iranians. They don't care about Islam anymore.
Where else have we seen that? We can ask ourselves recently. That's the same as when there is in the news here that Israel bombed a hospital, a school, a mosque, that they don't respect those civilian places. But the truth is that it's the worst of the Islamic extremist terrorist forces which hide in those places that are meant to be holy to them or sacrosanct to civilians.
Anything happened on October 7 and during war between the terrorists Hamas and Israel, anything happened, you seeing during this uprising in Iran, everything same. They, if you're watching the footage, you will see they actually filming the dead body and laughing on the dead body and saying, where is your crown prince? This is, you have to be evil. You have to be, you shouldn't be human. They are not really human. And anything happen in future, that's going to be, massive response from the Iranians people after the actually regime change, and nobody can stop them, and nobody can say you are extreme, or you love the killing people. No, you have to see what's going on right now, what's happening.
And that's interesting because there's been a lot of criticism of the BBC, for example, that people said they didn't cover the protests and uprisings that have gone on over the last 2 weeks plus. And then there was a response from the BBC. It was a mixture, actually. It was partly saying, yes, we have covered it, and we haven't covered it because we don't have enough verified video and we can't get our reporters into Iran, which was ironic, people said, because that didn't stop them when they were reporting from Gaza. They said, we can't get reporters into Gaza and we can't verify the videos, but they still put it all out there along the agenda of Hamas and the Islamists. So,
yeah, the BBC, Ayatollah BBC, we call them Ayatollah. The Ayatollah BBC 1970 start lying about our actually Shah of Iran. They start saying the Savak intelligence service in Iran, they are really actually massacre the Iranians. They are lying, lots of lie about the Iranians. They print Khomeini's actually picture and hand it to the protester in Iran. Ayatollah BBC. Why we call them Ayatollah? The Ayatollah BBC 1978 because they want to hire the actually Khomeini. They saying you can see this is the type of propaganda Ayatollah BBC made for Iranians. The Iranians at that moment, we don't have a social media. You find out what is true and what is a lie. They're saying you can see Khomeini face in moon, for example, tonight. Yes, this is actually type of propaganda Ayatollah BBC made. They never will come and supporting actually the Iranians who are against their baby. Yeah, we are not. Do you think Ayatollah BBC will come and say Iranians, 12,000 Iranians get murdered by Ayatollah by Islamic Republic? Never.
how does it feel in this moment, really, for you? Because I'm quite fascinated and constantly looking for updates, and there is plenty of information coming out, even though they've killed the internet and the phones, and there is plenty, as you say, these days you can get material and information if you try. It's a moment of I can see that it's a very conflicting moment, because it's a moment of great joy in some respects that this is happening, that this might succeed, that there is this support from Donald Trump and his White House. But there is also, as you just said, massive casualty numbers. The regime is slaughtering people. There is still not freedom. People are still basically without money. The currency is worthless. There's no water. There's been water shortage for electricity. People are living in dreadful conditions, in massive fear. Their bravery in rising up against it only puts things in more danger, makes things worse. And for Iranians inside Iran and for Iranians in the diaspora here, it must be very strange to have this mixture of feelings at the same time.
The feeling it's right now for myself, you feel we will be success very soon, but at the same time you're scared of your friends. If you are not able to see your friend, if you are not able to see your family, if they are not alive, this feeling actually sometimes take everything from you, even hope. Sometimes give you strong hope, sometimes take hope from you. It's really mix of this actually, and my nephew, he on his Instagram, he posted every day before the internet shut down. He actually saying, I'm going to the street. I have I have courage. I'm going to the street. If you have courage, you have to come. You have to answer your actually kids in future. He's 20 years old, just 20 years old. Just imagine 20 years old guy put his life in risk, and He messaged me and said, Dai means uncle. You will soon be in Iran. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is in the same time you see the courage, you see this courage actually make you feel you will be success very soon. The Iranians get their freedom very soon. But in the same time, you are worried about your loves,
Of course. And you have family all still there.
And our family are there.
Yeah. How long has it been since you were there?
12 years. Yeah. I heard from my family member, I don't want to mention who because of their safety. She said to me, around 40 members of my family get arrested day 3rd, and they
40.
40, yeah.
Wow. But that explains a bit about why you keep getting arrested here. It's
Yeah.
obviously a troublemaking family, yeah. No, I mean, in all seriousness, that is you're one guy, one family. This is what the people in Iran are literally facing.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Your bravery is notable as well because of that. Because it's not you say the British police aren't that scary to you compared to what you were used to in Iran, but at the same time your family are there, and you are a prominent person in this fight in the UK and around the world. You're well known, and the regime operates in such a way that they try to punish people by doing what they can to hurt your family as well. So I'm aware of the bravery is on many layers and many levels, and it's not always about your own personal safety and well-being.
I want to explain something about my actually problem here in the UK, which is not happening to me in Iran. I actually get death threat in Iran. I get death threat here in UK, Germany as well, which is I escaped from. I lost my left eye vision, around 40% of my left eye vision, just because of stress, which is the Metropolitan Police actually put on my life. 40% of my vision lost, and I have to go on the, February 11 for actually laser my eye, to get better. But this is the type of stress the actually system can put on your shoulder and make your life hard. But the Iranians, every day, every night, every morning, when they wake or when they want to go and sleep, they are hopeless. They don't know what they have to do. But in the same time, here I have, at least hope. I can sue the police. I can show them, okay, I can bring justice, But in Iran, it's not going to be happen. Justice with the Islamic Republic, never going to be happen.
How are you able to get updates from your friends and family there at the moment? And also, can you give me a sense of what is actually going on? Because we do see bits and pieces and we see reports, and what we see is pretty horrific, but it is difficult to piece together a complete picture of what's happening, and we're not helped by the mainstream media, who aren't really doing a very good job. So you're somebody, with your finger on the pulse. You have friends and family there, and very plugged into all of this. Paint a picture of exactly what is actually happening and where, what it means, how they're fighting, how you're able to find it out.
This is a really good question. You can actually answer this question yourself. How you yourself find the news from main media stream or from the people who actually speak up. You actually get the information from the people, from patriots around the world who stand up shoulder by shoulder by the Iranians and start telling the truth and showing the people around the world what's going on in Iran. We have for example, here in UK, GB News and 2CTV, Mahyar actually try to really show, but in same time, GB News, for example, doesn't know who is the lefties, who is a MEK actually, which is was allies by Islamic Republic and Khomeini. They help Khomeini to come to power. They are same ideology by Islamic Republic, but they don't have a power. But any news we get from the people inside Iran before actually shut the internet. But after that, we get from the people around the world, Iranians around the world, their friends. For example, lots of I saw on Twitter somebody, Tommy Robinson actually tweet something. He said, named someone and said, "He's my hero," And someone, I read the message, and someone said, "I think Tommy Robinson account get hacked because of the support, how much support he showed to the Iranians for example, as a British nationalist. Why he stand behind us and supporting us? It's coming from the threat he feel in his country. He understand the future of this country when he doesn't believe when the Islamists come to power what's going to be happen. And lots of people in Poland, in US, everywhere, they showing even in Israel. In Israel, we have great support from influencer, from the government, from politician, lots of actually support around the world, not main media stream, but from the people. You get the details, you get the news from people, and they actually showing to actually people around the world and politicians.
One of the reasons the mainstream media, let's say, to use that broad phrase, seems perhaps unable, really, almost to properly describe what's going on, it seems to me, is because it goes against so much of how they've told the news elsewhere in the world, how they've reported about Israel, how they report about people
24 hours. Israel, Gaza, Israel, Gaza.
Right. And the approach that they've taken to Israel is one that wants to deny or ignore or contradict the influence of the Islamic Republic of Iran in Hamas, in Hezbollah, in the Houthis' attacks on Israel. And as such, to now cover Iran properly, they would have to undo everything they said about those things. So it's, in a way, it's understandable. I think more and more people today realize that there is that limitation to the news that they're watching in those traditional places. And yet the things that we have to replace it, citizen journalists or people on the ground, or, as you say, patriots around the world from diaspora communities, there isn't this filter of accuracy or verification. So I think we're, all of us, learning to do that for ourselves, to understand maybe this is a group that's aligned to that group, or these people hate these people. And I think it makes us smarter, actually, rather than anything else, because we have to learn to be our own journalist, right?
Exactly. For example, they say in the beginning, they say, "Oh, this is all made by AI." Nobody in Iran chanting Crown Prince's name, or nobody in Iran saying this specific slogan, saying, "This is the final battle, Pahlavi will return." They saying this is actually AI, made by AI. People not actually chanting that. But around Iran, everywhere, every city, any video you actually see, they chanting that, because nobody can take over that. Nobody can actually confusing Western politician and Western people. Nobody can.
It's interesting actually that you mentioned that chant, for example, because I remember also there was this chant that was going around from protests not that long ago, that you can stick your Palestine up your
home.
and of course it was crude, and it offended a lot of people here who felt they understood the situation and that this was really crude and disrespectful. But that chant originated in Iran because I'd seen all these videos in the football stadiums.
October 8th,
Right.
day after October 7th, October 8th in Aryamer Stadium in Tehran, that chant come out, and you see everywhere now.
Again, it's very difficult for viewers or consumers of news like the BBC, or the reporters and journalists at the BBC, to accommodate what they're seeing there.
No.
Because why on earth would Iranians be chanting this anti-Palestinian? It's as if they have no idea that the Islamic Republic is manipulating Hamas to manipulate the people of Gaza, to attack the Israelis, that there is this joined up picture. They never touch it.
This is not just that, because, 1975, 1974, lots of leaders of the Islamic Republic, they were to the actually Lebanon. They were there and get the Libya, Lebanon. They get lots of knowledge for fighting against regime in Iran. That's why they say, the Iranians say, Lebanese, the Palestinian or Yasser Arafat movement, and all of them, they supporting Khomeini to come to power. And after everything Yasser Arafat and the Palestinian, so-called actually Palestinian, get from the Islamic Republic, that was the response of their help to the Islamic Republic to come power.
Now, you mentioned the Crown Prince, and I think in the past, from my understanding, that one of the reasons that previous uprisings and protests have not been successful in bringing about the fall of the tyrannical, theocratic regime in Iran has been a sort of lack of cohesive leadership, a lack of obvious replacement or alternative. And I know that he is held up by many as the answer to that. And yet it's not a certain thing. So what is it an important part of this uprising that people are able to unite behind him? Because there are those with criticisms of him who still don't like the regime. And what will happen next? We've seen other states or other regimes in states like in Syria recently fall, and then what comes in their place isn't always okay either. So tell me from your perspective, why you put your support squarely behind Reza Pahlavi and why others should, why the criticisms are or aren't valid of him, and is that really a fundamental factor in whether this will work or not?
2021, when uprising happened, before that as well, all the uprising till right now, what's happening right now, we missed something. In Iran, when I was myself, 2009, I didn't know we have Crown Prince still alive, or we have actually Pahlavi dynasty still supporting us, because we actually wasn't really good for his family. We actually betrayed him, That's why lots of people at that moment didn't know he's supporting us. 2009. 2021, even if you go and see the interview with the influencer, for example, Masih Alinejad, which is the Iranians are, lots of Iranians have problem with her and saying she's a blood dealer because she cared about her actually things, and she don't care about the Iranians. They blaming her.
I've seen a lot of that online actually now.
Yeah.
And can you explain it? In what there seems to be a lot of infighting among those who oppose the regime. So on the one hand, I appreciate sometimes there's manipulation from the regime to make you fight.
Exactly. But I want to explain why it's really helped Islamic Republic. Okay, if you are a true fighter, if you are really against Islamic Republic, you have to see what the people want. The people saying, we believe Pahlavi, we trust him, and we let him, actually we want him to actually come and make an election, democratic election, and we will choose what we want. But 2021, they confusing even the leaders, Western leaders. They saying, okay, for example, Trump, when Trump have a meeting with some influencer around Iranian influencer, asking, where is your leader? Who is your leader? They saying, oh, our leader is in prison in Iran. Okay, with who I have to talk, you know? But at that moment, the people inside Iran, they just not saying, okay, we don't need Islamic Republic. They saying, we don't need Islamic Republic. We want Pahlavi. If you want to support us, talk to him and support him, you know, sit with him and, you know, find a way how you can help us. Confuse it, you know, the people are not confused anymore. If you want to support, you have to stand by Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. If you don't want to support, okay, go on fuck yourself.
Well, I suppose what you're saying as well is that you don't need to think someone is perfect to recognize that they might be the best chance for success of what is a bigger aim that at least most people can unite behind, which is to overthrow the regime, to bring it down and to come up with a replacement. And that Pahlavi so far, from what he said publicly, has said that he will shepherd Iran into elections and the formation of a new democratic system.
All the time he mentioned that. All the time. He never saying I'm going to be next king. No, he always saying I want to be, you know, able Iranian people being able to elect, you know, to say what they want.
And so those who don't support him legitimately, not the ones who are, you know, influenced by the regime, but people who are against the regime but don't support Pahlavi, what is their reason for that?
We have two groups of enemy of the Pahlavi. First group is the people who was allied with the Khomeini to come to power, and when Khomeini come to power, kick them out and start killing them. This is the first group. And the second group, which is they don't like him, they love Islamic Republic, they love, you know, Islamic Republic stay in power, and they are able to fight against, you know, someone is always get the founding and stuff like that. They don't care about the Iranian. They want to just, you know, the fighting is their job, actually. But just imagine when the Islamic Republic gone, who fighting who they want to fight with? Nobody. And where can they get the money? Nowhere. That's why they want to actually Islamic Republic stay in power. They are, you know, sometimes saying, okay, hijab, for example, it's the Iranians' problem. No, it's not. The Islamic Republic, entire Islamic Republic, is our problem.
When we see those photos and memes from, you know, Iran before the Islamic Revolution and after, and, you know, we see images of women in regular Western style clothing, not in hijabs or niqabs, not with the modesty police. For those of us who have never been able to go to Iran, it's very alluring to see, you know, it's a country I would love to visit when it is safe for me. And is there a hope that it will go back to that? Or is the society now so entrenched, even if it's anti-regime, 40-something years of Islamization in a tyrannical sense will have changed society? It's a conservative society generally, isn't it?
Yeah. For example, 47 years, Islamic Republic trying hard, you know, washing the children's brains in school to, for example, say the Western country, UK, US, and Israel, they chanting every Friday, they chanting every, you know, pray in school, they force you to go to pray. After every pray, for example, morning, if you want to go to in your classroom, before you go into classroom, every time, every day, you have to chant death to UK, death to US, death to Israel, every day. This is something, serious.
They did this to you when you were growing up there?
Always. Everyone who going to school, before to go to the classroom, they have to chant.
And you know what we used to do when I was growing up here?
Myself,
when I was growing up in school here, they made us sing hymns, Christian hymns in school in the morning, and this was seen as part of our cultural heritage, and I rather like it as a Jew. And what you were being taught as equivalent to that in Iran was death to America, death to Israel, death to Britain.
Yeah, exactly. And they saying, for example, we actually every day, every morning, we chanting that. Every morning after the pray, they chanting death, 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 and now go to your classroom.
And did it take root? Are there people who this worked on?
Absolutely. This, the kids, 8, 9 years old kids, what they do, what they know, nothing. They just, learn. They go into school to learn.
And so when the regime is over, how, as dictatorships end, sometimes it takes a long time, but
it's not, because the world is different now, because of the the way we have actually we can provide the information. It's really quick. Everyone have their smartphone. Everyone are able right now to get the information. What do you think? Why the young generation all supporting Crown Princess of Pahlavi? Because right now they knew everything they talk about his family was lie. Because of the information from the social media they get. That's why it's going to be really quick happen.
I hope so. And it works both ways, of course, because the same social media and the same interconnectedness is how we are able to know from Iranians what's going on there. And I mean, thank goodness you mentioned Donald Trump, but I would like to give a shout out also to Elon Musk for, the regime closes down the internet, but these days...
2019, the head of Twitter at that moment,
Jack Dorsey.
Yeah, we call Ayatollah Jack because he always suspend lots of account who was against the Islamic Republic. I remember the Iranians put the some different flags on their pages and saying some bullshit, lefty bullshit to keep their account safe. But after Jack, when Elon Musk come, actually lots of freedom speech actually he provide to us. And I want to go back to the picture the footage you said before the 1979, when you see Iran is the only country if you see the footage from the past, you feel you're seeing the footage for the future. The Islam and Sharia law change Iran 360 degree. It's really different, totally different. And lots of Iranian wants to see that again, being free and being success and being friend with rest of world.
I don't think, unless people have looked into it, I don't think most people here who grew up, like my generation of Brits and Westerners and Europeans, don't think they have an appreciation at all. It's very hard to, for what it's like to live under a regime like that. I mean, I watched a film recently that was an Iranian film, My Favorite Cake. I don't know if you saw it. It's it's a really nice film. They made it, I think, last year or the year before. But it just shows, it's an old lady who is widowed, and it shows she's trying to make a new relationship with a guy. And even the complications just for an ordinary woman whose husband is dead to meet a man, to have a very sort of innocent romance. The movie showed very beautifully the utter horrors of living daily under such a regime. You can't go out with a man. You can't be alone with a man who you're not related to. You can't show your hair in the street. It's people, I think, who are on the wrong side of this, obsess over things like Jews and Israel. But I always want to ask them, even if you don't care about Jews and Israel, what about women? How can we look at what's happened in Iran? And previous protests and uprising periods have been led by the women.
2021, yeah.
Right. It should seem to them inconceivable that they would support a regime that requires women against their will to cover themselves, not to be out without a man who owns them effectively. These things are backwards and barbaric.
Yeah.
And they happen to a society that didn't have that and doesn't want it, right?
I think the Iranians in our history, in our culture, respect women more than any actually culture in the world, really. Because Iranians always respecting a woman, always saying we have to respect women. When I was actually a child, my dad always saying you have to respect, even the girl you have to respect. She gonna be mother in future. You have to respect her. Yeah, lots of different view here in a Western country. Actually, they're saying, okay, for example, feminism. Yeah, man and woman should be equal. Okay, right now, men and women are equal. Okay, you have to do something else. The Iranians inside Iran, they already respect women. They already fight with the woman. Women's already standing with the man in Iran and fighting together. Even 2021, the influencer activists here, they try to say this is a feminist movement, which is Iranians inside Iran, even women, refuse to accept that. That's why we see the respect, both sides respect from both gender, actually, woman and man in Iran. And yeah, if you want to actually get the attention from the Western country, you have to name your actually movement as a woman's, because they can't say avoid that, because they don't have these things.
Right.
That's why, yeah, you have to say, oh, look at the woman, brave woman. The woman burned the Ayatollah's actually picture. You have to look at the woman.
Yeah, so there's this image now where she's lighting a cigarette
Yeah.
with the burning image of
because they don't have these things. They don't have, they still in Western country, they still doesn't this actually, they don't still feeling woman and man.
I have to tell you, it's kind of, actually, it's really interesting what you're saying, because I think it's a feature of modern, communications, that we do work very much through images.
Yeah.
Whether it's been over the couple of years of the war in the Gaza Strip, images have been key, specific individual images of a specific person or child or hostage. And the same seems to be true, as you're saying, in the uprising in Iran. There are these iconic images. We saw the woman on the front page of some of the papers here who was killed by the regime, this white blonde woman, and because of her particular look, I think the Western media found it easy to latch onto it.
Exactly.
Same with the woman lighting the cigarette.
Yeah. You have to actually remember, the guy banned Khamenei's picture, and in morning banned Khamenei's picture, in afternoon they kill him.
Yeah.
Why he wasn't in front line?
Every picture of every paper, right? So there's almost something you're saying a bit patronizing about the coverage in the West, idolizing the female protesters, not to do them down, but
yeah. Omid Sarlak, you can Google his name. Omid Sarlak banned Khamenei's picture. Morning he gets shot.
Right.
Afternoon. bravely, he just show his face. He didn't even cover his face.
I will say every one of them is brave, and it's the tragedy of these situations is it's impossible for us to know the story and share the level of empathy that we should for every single person, because the horror of it is just how many there are and how many lives are ruined or ended or changed forever. So that is even of those who survive.
Actually, the best footage I see, and I feel lots of Iranian loves that, was the flag, rising the flag, top of the Ayatollah's.
And they did it as well in the embassy, right?
Yeah.
That was iconic, by the way, because, sorry to interrupt, but because that balcony is famous, and we all recognize that balcony, or should do. And this guy, climbed the wall like a cat, just put the flag up, and he got arrested. I mean, of course he did.
No, he
No, he didn't get arrested.
No.
Okay, I thought he did.
He didn't, because the people actually go in the corner. When he calmed down, the people
absorbed him. Well, there you go.
Rescuing him.
I'm pleased to hear it. I guess the police have a responsibility to protect embassies and what have you. But regardless, it was iconic image. These images are so important.
Yeah, actually, the Shah of Iran, he said the patriotism is something we never talking about enough. The patriotism in every country give you power in every way. If you love your country, if you have courage for fighting for your country, means you love your family, means you love the future of your children. That's why you can sacrifice your life for your actually country and family. The flag I actually mentioned, he was top of the status of the Khamenei. He put the flag top of the
on the statue.
Yes, and that actually shake everyone's hearts around the world, the Iranians, because they feel, okay, that's going to be happen. Something really nice. We don't care about who did that. We never mention man or woman did that. We're saying everywhere the flag rise in Iran, top of the Khamenei's.
Flags are an interesting one because, as you know, in this country we have a very strange relationship with our flag. So to raise a flag here is almost seen as an act of racism and extremism. And what you're saying is that, in Iran, there's the two flags. There's the one of the Islamic Republic and the one that is traditionally with the anti-regime flag. But more or less, everyone should be able to unite in a sense of patriotism behind the flag of their country.
Yeah.
Left or right, man or woman.
Yeah,
that's the point.
Absolutely. Myself, always saying, flag related to the nation, not to the government. But our flag, Islamic Republic, is not Islamic Republic flag, because flag and the government are related to the mullahs, not to us. That's why our flag and our flag became really, really strong sign, which is the people in street, when they are going to street, they raising the flag, sun and lion flag, and showing that and Pahlavi's picture. This is the sign of patriotism and sign of the people who are they are loving the country and what they want. This is a sign of the future of Iran. That's why I feel it's really great sign.
And you mentioned Trump, so explain for anyone that doesn't really get it how Iranians feel about Donald Trump, the United States, Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, the war. Israel and Iran had in June, I was in Israel as the ballistic missiles from Iran were literally sending us into bomb shelters every night. And yet I know so many Iranians who were cheering on the Israeli strikes in Iran where they had no protection, no shelters, because the regime doesn't look after them and protect them, and still they were cheering for Israel. Explain it, how the ordinary Iranian people feel about these much villainized people and countries here in the West. Trump, Israel, Netanyahu.
Lots of people actually asking Bibi Netanyahu should actually help Iranians. Why he didn't help? Why he didn't show his help to Iranians?
Why he didn't finish off the job?
Yeah. No. Everyone right now after uprising, they saying why they are not, Israel not helping us. But we have to remember 12 days war between Israel and Islamic Republic. Lots of actually head of the IRGC
were killed. Yeah.
Which is they are always involved with killing the Iranians. The head of the IRGC, Salami, for example, the guy who came to the news and lying about the PS-70, the Ukrainian actually flight. They shot the flight and they lying 3 days. We have to remember that. Bibi Netanyahu and Israel helped Iranians before the uprising, but listen, when they are still alive, more than 12,000. Right now, they are still more than 12,000 people get killed, but more than this number we can get. Just remember, 12,000 people just in 2 days. Just in 2 days. It's insane. And about the Trump, if you compare Trump with Obama, you can get your answer. Obama actually stabbed us from back, but Trump stood with us. That's the difference. That's why the Iranians actually inside Iran, they are coming in the street with sign. They even, I see the video, which is, I cry and I laugh in same time. That was really breaking my heart. But I'm pleased how he report. The guy, actually the IRGC member start shooting the people. Shooting. He was filming and he start talking in English. He said, President Trump, they killing us, they shooting us, he report in English, and sometimes they with the sign, they in the street asking President Trump, please help us, please help us. And these things, these signs actually coming straight away from Iran, from people who are uprising against Islamic Republic, show you how actually important the President Trump support for us. Yeah.
We're recording this on Wednesday, the 14th, so we'll try and get it out as quickly as possible, and things are changing. But even just this morning, looking at it, it's not just words. Trump appears to be weighing very seriously the actions he can take. There were movements of military aircraft in the region that certainly indicate very serious options are on the table if they won't be taken necessarily directly or immediately. That even in and of itself can put pressure on the regime to understand that this is the end.
Yeah, even one action, even one bomb in Khomeini's house, just one bomb, it's going to be Islamic Republic finished. Because all rest of people which didn't decide to go to street or believe the Western countries still doesn't want to changing the regime, because UK after 14 days, what they say? Nothing. No support to Iranian people, That's why the people still looking, they still, waiting for the real action, I hope when this interview come out, Iranians coming in, still coming in the street and changing the regime.
It's the only time that I hope that by the time we get the episode out, things will have changed so much. Everything we've spoken about is out of date. But I really do hope that in the best possible way that's the case. What do you wish then British people will do? I know that this Sunday There will be another rally going from the BBC to Downing Street that you're organising as we speak, and people can go and show their support and things like that. But what should governments do? Should we have banned the IRGC here in the UK? Should we have shut down that Islamic centre literally down the road from me, which everybody knows is a regime hub? What, Britain doesn't really seem to have taken a robust position.
I think, I know they will not doing that, but I think it's great sign for the IRGC member in Iran when they prescribe as a terrorist organization. They will not stay in the IRGC. They will going out, and the great action for us is all the countries around the world kick the politician, we kick the actually member of embassies, Islamic Republic's embassies out of their country. This is a really good sign to Iranians, which is you actually say to them, to Iranians who are against Islamic Republic, telling them they are not welcome in Western country. They are, should facing justice in Iran, front of all of you. That's why, make the actually government, sorry, make the government actually, people who working with the government scared when these things happen. They feel unsafe. You have to help people like acting like this. Yeah, shut the Islamic Center, which is our terror center actually for the Islamic Republic. They're using this center against lots of not just Iranian,
British
people as well.
Yeah. As we sort of come to a close of our conversation now, that is important to note that Iran isn't, the regime in Iran is not just a threat to Iranians in Iran. It's a threat and a constant danger to Iranians outside Iran. It's a constant threat and danger, not just to Israelis and Jews in Israel, but a constant threat to Jews around the world, a constant threat to British people, to Americans, to Westerners. Iran is behind international terrorism the world over, aimed not just at Jews and not just at Iranian dissidents, but at everyone. They disrupt international shipping through the Red Sea. They support terrorist groups internationally, which attack everybody, not just Jewish people, not just Israelis. And so the downfall of this regime is of key importance, obviously, because we want the people of Iran to have a better life without that. But also for all of us, it will literally transform and change the shape of the Middle East more than Israel has already done by taking out many of Iran's proxies or diminishing them, and will change the threat level to us here in Britain, where Iranian agents or Iranian-sponsored agents have attacked and tried to take life, even on British soil. That has kidnapped and illegally imprisoned British dual nationals like Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe, Britons who've travelled into Iran, like the couple who went on the motorbiking trip. Giselle Sharmad's father, who was abducted and killed, a German American Iranian. The list goes on and on and on.
Exactly. We have lots of.
It's time for everybody to see the back of this regime, and I really hope that the support we saw.
Don't forget, we have right now two British citizens. They are still in Iran.
A couple who went on the motorbike trip. Exactly. And I must say, most Britons are completely oblivious, completely unaware. We saw hostages taken by the Iranian-backed Hamas in Israel and kept in the Gaza Strip. And pretty much every single hostage's face and name was on the minds and lips of every Israeli and basically most Jews I know around the world for 2 years solidly. And the only people that work tirelessly as leaders to get the release of those were Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. Say what you will. Our Prime Minister called for the release of the sausages. And most Britons don't even know there are Britons being held prisoner and hostage in Iran. They don't know their names. They don't know anything about it. So please God, we can...
For Allah, but they know very well.
Yeah.
For Allah, in Egypt,
Yep, we brought him in, and the Egyptians warned us he's a security risk. The Conservative government gave him citizenship. The Labour government fought for him to come back into the UK, and then were delighted, as a quote from the Prime Minister, as their top priority since coming into government. So a lot of stuff is upside down, but a lot of British people, I saw it last week, are foursquare behind the protesters there and in Iran.
Absolutely.
It's a privilege to know you as a friend, it really is. And I hope that this moment of really great uncertainty and fear can come to fruition as a moment of opportunity and joy at the overthrow of the regime. From strength to strength, thank you again. Thank you for everything you're doing. And as ever, thanks for talking to me.
Thank you so much. And really, in the end, I want to just say, Iranians, never forget your support. Anywhere you are. This is in our culture. We never forget our friends in hard time. People can be your friend in, good time. You can make party in street when you are happy, but nobody wants to come and sit and cry and hug you when you are in bad situation. But lots of actually Jew did that to us and help us and show the solidarity with us, and lots of British people as well. I love them, and they are my family. And thank you so much for having me here.
As we say, a friend in need is a friend indeed.
Yeah.
And I do think that there are, many, many strong friendships that have been forged between Jews and Persians and Iranians and Israel and Iran and Brits as well. So yeah, absolutely. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, and see you soon in my home in Tehran.
Inshallah.